Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the CSGO News episode, a very exciting episode. As per usual, tons of stories. They'll be timestamped down below if you guys want to click on through. But very fast, I want to show something to all of you guys that you might not care about. So feel free to skip forward 30 seconds here. I was actually talking to Sam. He followed me on Twitter. Thanks to Sam for that. I always feel like I need to thank people who are, approaching pro players and upcoming pro players who actually follow me on Twitter. It makes me feel very good inside. I sent him a thank you message, and he sent me a message back that I never thought I would ever receive. He actually sent me a message and said that his parents, if they're watching right now, hello Mama and Papa Sam, they actually watch my CSGO videos to learn more about the scene. And that honestly, it blew my mind. It made me feel really good inside. So thank you, Sam. Thank you for your parents. If you guys have parents and you want to show them my video, DM me on Twitter and maybe I'll shout you out. Anyways, hope you guys all enjoy a crazy episode of CSGO News, and let's hop into our first story out there. Apparently, CSGO Trash Talk is back. Of course, if you guys remember, I missed the config days. We're going to talk about some news about config in a few minutes here, but if you guys remember the old config that I remember that's never probably left, I missed him versus the G2 days, where they were having that Trash Talk fiesta, and then we actually had last week. It might be the return. It was Vanity from E United during one of their matchups against Complexity. He was trash talking, I say that very lightly with a question mark. He trash talked Shazam, and now it might be back for good because it's actually Team ForZe. They are trash talking to the ultimate limits here, guys. According to Vitality members, actually a majority of the roster out there, during a Mountain Dew League match. Before a Mountain Dew League match, who would have thought of all matches out there, a Mountain Dew League match, you got a trash talk? But accordingly to most of the Vitality roster out there, it was the ForZe guys, or one of them being XePower. I never know how to say his name because it's like a play on letters. I think he's trying to get you to say, so I should, XePower apparently called the boys the P word. The P word that I can't say on the show. I'm not allowed. I'm really not allowed to say it, but you guys can assume what I mean, okay? Maybe you can take guesses down below. He called them the P word according to the Vitality roster because apparently of map selection, Cash went through to the randomly selected map, and then later on, I don't know how it got there, it was actually ForZe who does this, and then they forfeit the match. That is one way to lose every trash talk battle. I can tell you guys from personal experience, if you run away from a trash talk battle or forfeit in any way, you lose the trash talk fight. Vitality 1, ForZe 0. Let's break it down though, our actual first top CSGO story out there, and that is all around North American teams, or formerly North American teams, that being Cloud9, OpTic, and all the teams they're going to affect with these huge roster changes. Because in the last 2 days, we have now seen, thanks to Decay, I'll link his articles down below, great reads through, guys. It does seem a lot of these trades will be going through, although not fully confirmed quite yet. Some of them are actually on HLTV, all brought to us by Decay. Originally though, not confirmed by the teams, but the players themselves have been tweeting out some things, Kiyoshima being one of them, which does seem very likely Cloud9 will have replacements. If you guys do know, apparently it's going to be Cloud9, Config, and Yugi taking those players from OpTic, of course dealing a heavy blow when you take away OpTic's best player or highest ceiling player, that being Config. I still think Yugi a bit of a questionable matchup, and then we learned just yesterday about potential replacements for OpTic. As they lose Config, they lose Yugi, and who the replacements would be: MSL and Niko. What? So you got a Cloud9. I thought Cloud9 was in shambles, and so they take a huge blow to OpTic Gaming. So think about this in a fashion. If this does all go through, guys, we have a Cloud9 who needs to subtly try and kill OpTic to take their players. Then you got an OpTic who need to subtly try and kill a Rogue and take their players to stay alive. It's like a feeding fiesta where Cloud9's at the top, then you got OpTic, and then you got Rogue, the poor team who is already beater's not a word, battered, bruised, whatever you want to say that starts with a B. These guys were beaten down when they lost Cadian, and of course they eventually lost Ricky. I don't think near as much of a loss there. They actually got MSL to replace their loss of Cadian, and now just a few months later, it was late 2018 where they got MSL to replace their loss of Cadian. An IGL role, you don't want to be swapping around too much, and now apparently going to be losing MSL, and I think their highest potential player. Yes, we've seen a lot from Sick. He has a lot of potential. He's had a lot of potential ever since 2017, but Niko is the player I've been hyped on for quite some time as well, and apparently it will be OpTic Gaming to take MSL and take Niko, and now it's going to be Rogue left in the ruts. I don't know what this roster can do. And then you look at OpTic, and you're like, you already got Snappy in IGL, so does this mean a replacement of Snappy? And dare I say this, I'm actually excited to see where this goes. I've discussed my issues about OpTic Gaming, especially in that IGL role with Snappy. Refrez himself had his high points to actually get onto OpTic. We're gonna wait to see if he can actually, kind of recap himself there. But I really do think if you're gonna replace a Snappy eventually with MSL, the likes of him have to be an improvement based off what OpTic has done in the past year. You can't argue against an IGL would be probably an automatic improvement from there. And then Niko, I think, a very promising young talent, and again, a guy that I think certainly has his time to shine, or likely will with this OpTic roster. And then you think on top of this, what did the old OpTic roster do? Arguably nothing. So what are the odds that this roster does the same thing? I would say fairly low. I think OpTic wins this trade here, and I really do like to see these changes, although I do of course have to feel bad for Rogue, suffering losses on losses on losses, constant losing players, and I don't know where Rogue goes from here, if I'm being honest. Hey guys, next segment here. I didn't want to be hyped up about this, but I just want to quickly say in a very subtle manner, I think HellRaisers are winning all these swaps, and I really, as always, I kind of try and stress for you guys to leave comments down below. Super curious what you guys always think. Even though I don't always reply to your comments, I do actually read majority of the comments out there. I think HR are winning all of these swaps par to none. As of recent news out there, Cybersport saying apparently it's HR now trying to acquire SuNny. SuNny, we thought, we didn't really know where he was going to end up. Of course, people thought maybe a Cloud9 potential there, then in talks with ENCE as well. Now apparently it could be HR to land SuNny, and this is going to be a roster I'm actually super excited to see, and I say subpar to none. I think on paper HR have won just about everything here. In my opinion, they get rid of an inconsistent, a guy who has very low lows in Woxic, who I think is still, yes, a very, very, very good opper, but then to replace him, you get a world top ranking opper in Oscar for borderline free, and on top of that, you get rid of a nearly dead or arguably totally dead Fox, and you replace him with the best finished player in the world in SuNny, if this does go true. Now again, I'm not trying to lay hate out there. I still think Dead Fox, highly potential player in terms of clutch situations. We've just not seen the fragging power ever since 2 years ago, if not more than that. So either way though, I think this roster, automatic improvements, and I'm very excited to see how these guys click, because on paper this roster made huge advances. And then very briefly and very lastly as well, I am losing my voice. I don't typically do videos this late in the day as well. I'm feeling pretty tired out there. It's actually AVANGAR making changes, not going to be permanent changes, just a stand-in player for Crizzen as he's undergoing some health issues right now. I'm sure Crizzen will be back. I know a lot of us out there didn't really expect too many changes to come AVANGAR's way, unless it was actually Jame being taken away, which he seems to be staying on the roster, so good for those guys in the CIS scene. Not so good though for another team out there, that being Gambit Gaming. Boy oh boy, I had thought Cloud9 was going to be taking a hit, but Gambit Gaming to me is a roster certainly in shambles alongside of Cloud9. I do not know the direction these guys will be making, as they've released two of their players, that being Blade and that being Bondic. An organization, if I'm being honest with you guys, which I typically try and be, they now seem very set on keeping a persona on that roster instead of actual players. I think stat by stat, if you're going to compare things out there, I would argue Bondic to be a much better player. Not much better, a comparable player, if not a better player than Doja, and they continue to retain Doja on this lineup. A lot of us know him as the face of Gambit Gaming. If that's the direction they want to go, so it seems. I'm not going to blame them for dropping Blade. I still think the fragging power is just gone with that guy, but still a smart mind in CIS, and I think a developmental coach in the future. I think a coach out there who would add to most teams in the CIS scene. Get Blade in a coaching role out there, Bondic a questionable drop, and the future of Gambit Gaming, I don't know. But as always, I hope you guys all enjoy. I'm running it down here. I'll be back tomorrow to break down some other CSGO news that I did miss today. I hope you guys all enjoy. Thank you all very much. I don't know why I'm doing this. Thank you all who leave likes and especially leave comments down below. You guys are truly the best, as we broke 24,000 subscribers yesterday. Thank you all very much, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Drink some caffeine, have a good night's sleep, have a good morning, wherever you guys are around the world. I'm talking way too much. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Okay, goodbye.